around the wound?
On Mr. Huber?
Mr. Huber.
Yes.
Okay. And the clothing also had gunpowder residue?
A little more difficult to say on the clothing. Mr. Huber's tank top, which was the item of clothing that came with him, that tank top it was a tie-dyed black and gray and white appearance, so made that very difficult. So in those situations, usually I will defer to try to opine if I can't tell for sure.
Okay. So there's nothing in that gunshot wound that suggests that he wasn't in close contact with my client's firearm.
That's right.
Okay. And did you look at any video regarding that shooting?
Yes, it's also included in that video provided.
The video shows that my client's lying on his back, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Huber grabs the firearm, correct?
It appears so, yes.
Pulls the firearm from one direction towards and into his chest, correct?
They end up in that position. I don't know if he's pulling or what. I don't know what's going on there.
Mr. Huber strikes him with the skateboard. The gun is not in his chest. Fair statement?
That fair statement.
Okay. When he's shot, the skateboard is in his right hand. The gun is now up in his chest.
However, Jack, these are conclusions based on.
I'm asking if his wound is consistent with this scenario.
Yeah, wrecked.
Okay.
Allowed.
I'll start over.
Yes, reset. See, yes,
Mr. Huber,
exactly.
you see him hit my client in the head with the skateboard, correct?
Yes.
So now he just gets to go over all the same details again.
These are conclusions that Mr. Huber hit or did anything is
You
central to
see
this
him
case.
do it.
These are not conclusions that anyone can make but the jury.
He said, the doctor said he watched the video.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm assuming that that's his knowledge base.
You asked him to watch the video.
And you can redirect on the subject if you want.
I'll start again, sir.
Yes, excellent.
There is a blow from Mr. Huber to my client's head with a skateboard, correct?
Yes, the skateboard makes contact with Mr.
He swings the skateboard with his right hand into my client's back neck range, correct?
I'm not sure where it makes impact, but
You see an impact.
yeah, it makes contact.
And he reaches down
Head
with his
trauma.
left hand, seeming to grab my client's gun, correct?
Yes.
When he puts his hand on the gun, the barrel is not pointing in his chest, correct?
I don't recall, but I don't think so.
Okay. And through whatever movement between my client and Mr. Huber, the gun barrel ends up, which would be right about here,
It does.
okay? And there's a gunshot, correct?
Yes.
And that gun is touching his clothes.
It's in intermediate range. It's closer.
What is
Can
close?
define
What
intermediate
is close?
range for me, please.
Well,
Define
again,
it.
we talked
Boom.
about how intermediate range injuries can be within 4 feet. And
Within 4 feet.
obviously from the video, it's closer than that, but I can't say whether the
Excellent.
muzzle is in contact with
Oh, what the hell's close
Yes.
range?
clothing.
There's none.
Through
Touching the
the
skin.
type of stippling that
think
you
that's it.
have on the Huber wound,
A stab
you
wound.
know,
Oh, intermediate
It's
was
less
between
than 4
1 and 4
fair
feet.
statement.
That's a fair statement.
Through independent evidence, which you review as a forensic pathologist / investigator, the video evidence establishes closer.
It does.
Nice.
Oh, gosh.
Nice.
Good cross. He's doing a great job.
He even asked a question and worded it with like,
And-
okay, so when his hand was on the gun,
Just
and
assume,
he's like, yes. So it's
for the purposes
like
of this
I got
question,
him to admit that.
that the first shot from my client, moving back to Mr. Rosenbaum now, is the 0 shot, number 1. The fourth shot is 76 hundredths of a second after that. That is how fast the 4 shots were fired out of my client's gun.
Surprised they didn't object to that
And
because that's
he's
not an evidence
goes
yet.
from the furthest 4 feet to touching the gun, correct?
Yes.
That calls for speculation.
No, it does not.
You just answered.
The doctor answered yes.
Yeah. Boom. Too late.
And
Yeah.
Overruled.
This is why when you object, you have to do it very quickly before they respond. Otherwise, it's waived.
is that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty or medical certainty? I apologize.
Medical certainty, as I pointed out, from the autopsy findings alone, you can't put these in order. It's only by reviewing the video and simply looking at the orientation of his body
I'm
and
adding
co-
another
and
gentleman
comparing
to the
that to
stream.
the findings on the body that you can do that. So to that degree of certainty, it appears that he's in that horizontal position.
And Mr. Carlos asked it, the shot to the pelvis, you think is first?
I think that makes the most sense.
Okay. The shot that goes in the scalp, second?
No, I think that the only orientation that makes sense with the trajectory of the gunshot wound to the back and the right side of the head is when he's in more of a horizontal position. So those two injuries must be the third and the fourth injuries. But that's the best I can do.
The head wound goes back to front and from the top of the head down towards the forehead.
That's right.
Okay, so if I was charging like a bull and diving, that would be
Charging like a bull.
And
It would be.
A baby ball.
Nice. He had to object to the wording there.
Yeah,
He
they
should've-
didn't.
should've.
he's-
Oh
was
my
bad
goodness,
job
that was
not
phenomenal.
objecting.
Welcome to the stream, Mr. Ron Coleman. We've got
Hey,
another
guys.
lawyer in the house.
Yes, someone with zero criminal law trial experience, but I can watch TV.
Doctor,
with
the
anybody.
injuries you noted, they'd also be consistent with falling after being struck in the hip.
Yes.
So if Mr. Rosenbaum was struck in the hip, his momentum kept carrying him forward, he was falling, the other three shots could have been as he was falling.
That's possible too.
But it's consistent with that.
It is.
What is a muzzle stamp?
Well, a muzzle stamp is what we briefly talked about earlier with contact gunshot wounds. And if the energy of the bullet entering the body causes the skin to smack against the muzzle of the gun, it can leave an abrasion, even a patterned abrasion in the shape of the muzzle of the gun on the skin. And so a muzzle stamp is a term that's used for a contact abrasion that's associated with a contact gunshot wound. And the reason why when we talked about a close range wound to the hand, the reason why we didn't talk about that, although it could be in close range like that, is because the skin of the palm is much thicker, and it very seldom, if ever, allows for a muzzle stamp or an abrasion of that sort. Certainly not like you would see with a contact wound to the head or to the chest.
So there was no muzzle stamp in this case.
No.
Okay, I'd like to ask Investigator Stu to pull up.
That's to try to create a perception
as we're
of
doing
distance
that-
between the gun and his
But
hand.
literally, if there was no contact, the muzzle stamp wouldn't happen.
Right.
It could be millimeters
could-
away.
Exactly.
Millimeters.
Speaking of Chicago, right? What are you gonna believe? What you see or what I tell you? Like that's the big problem with this case.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Doctor,
Yeah.
if this is the gun,